Monument Valley, a land of mystery and legend. Monument Valley is part of the Navajo Indian Reservation that stretches along the borders of Utah and Arizona in the American Southwest. It's known as the eighth wonder of the world for its incredible scenery. Behind the scenery are the stories. Stories of people who have become legends of Monument Valley. Meet backcountry tour operator Bill Crawley. For over 56 years, Bill has spent most of his life living with the Navajo people.
You know, I sit here and think back and remember when I first came to the Monument Valley area. I was around 14 years old, and my dad come over a hill out here coming into the Kayenta Valley here. I thought to myself, wow, where's my father taking me? And but that was my first experience, and this was in 1949. And me being a teenager, naturally I didn't think of the history of it or anything. It's just like, why, you know, or I just felt like, what am I going to see come around the corner here pretty soon? You know, whether it be a dinosaur or something, you know, so, or a big snake.
Bill Crawley lives nearby in the town of Kayenta. And as a professional guide, location scout, and tour operator, movie makers, photographers, advertising agencies, and media from around the world seek his wealth of knowledge of the valley's history and its incredible places. This is Bill's story.
So my dad was running bread trucks out here from Flagstaff, Arizona, and he was supplying trading posts all the way from Cameron, Tuba City, the Hopi villages, and right on out to the Navajo Indian Reservation here. Things start happening where my dad was involved with some of the trading posts, and one thing led to another, and so my father took over a small lodge and a restaurant here in Kayenta, which was at one point owned by John Wetherill, the first white man to ever settle within Kayenta, which is Kayenta, the town that we live in now. At the time, there was a gentleman here by the name of Bernie Mayer, and the Navajos called him Sakazi. He let me go out with him a lot to Monument Valley, driving his little Jeeps at the time and taking care of his guests and all, which maybe we would have 4 or 5 people once every 3 or 4 weeks or something like that, and that was about what it was at the time. People start coming into the area as the roads got better, and they kept them graded, because up until 1963 there was no paved highways from Cameron on Highway 89 north of Flagstaff. From there all the way in through to Kayenta here, which was about 90 miles of dirt road coming into this area, and then another 25 miles of dirt and sand into Monument Valley. With me driving tours for Bernie Mayer, I fell in love with the Monument Valley area. Then after a while, Bernie, he got to the point where he didn't want to be in the business anymore. So my family and I, we bought Bernie Mayer out.
It was Bill's good friend, Indian trader Harry Goulding, that first introduced Hollywood to Monument Valley.
the time that my good longtime friend, Mr. Harry Goulding, had went out to Los Angeles, and he met in the office and stayed there for a few days waiting to visit with John Ford, a movie director, and because he had heard they wanted to film a movie called Stagecoach with John Wayne. But anyway, Mr. Goulding sat there and waited it out until somebody talked to him about it, and he had some black and white photographs that a great photographer, Mr. Joseph Munch, had taken. And when he showed John Ford these pictures, well, Mr. Ford thought, whoa, you know what, this is where we want to go do this film. So they came out and did the movie Stagecoach. It was the first film that was ever shot in Monument Valley. And they employed many, many Navajo Indians to help work with them and be in the film, and everybody enjoyed it, and Mr. Ford really took care of them. And John Wayne actually fell in love with this country at the time. And then after that, it just started snowballing, and other films were made here. She Wore a Yellow Ribbon, Fort Apache, My Darling Clementine, and these were with like Henry Fonda and Victor Mature. And my only first meeting with John Ford was I was out in Monument Valley. They came in here to do a documentary on John Wayne. I happened to be out there working with, like in production, and taking supplies to them that they needed during that period. Us being in the lodge business and then the restaurant business here, we was trying to get out and get it nationally advertised about Monument Valley. Naturally, a lot of people all over the world had seen it in movies that had came in here since Stagecoach in 1939. And so from that time on, people naturally were aware of Monument Valley, but they really didn't know how to get in here or how to, you know, really penetrate the area and see the beauty of our Navajo Nation here.
For over 50 years, Bill Crawley has built his backcountry tour operation into one of the most respected outdoor adventures.
The drive through Monument Valley is fantastic. On the drive that you make through Monument Valley, you have Mitten View. You've got two large monoliths there that are 900 to 1,000 feet high. The weather and the elements and the erosion has shaped those into like two big mittens, like your gloves. And there's a right or a west and an east mitten there, and they're shaped in a form where there's thumbs on them and they look like mittens. And they're so huge, and there's a mile in between them, which people don't really realize. Then we have the Three Sisters. The Three Sisters are large sandstone in the Deshea sandstone on top of the Wingate Formation, and they stand about 400 feet high, two of them, and one of them is quite smaller in the middle, and it stands up there about 150 feet high from the base of it. If you just think about it and you look at it right, it makes a figure like a W and a V, and so we all feel like, well, that's set there because it just reminds us that it's a wonderful valley. Then we have the north window, which is a scene that you see in many, many westerns, is the cavalry riding and crossed in front of it. The totem pole which is a tall spire totem pole. We've had that used in films like Eiger Sanction with Clint Eastwood and George Kennedy on top of it. And we used it as the backdrop of a movie called Cheyenne Autumn, which their village was in the foreground of the totem pole, and the Yebiche dancers, they call it. And the Yebiche dancers are a group of rocks behind that totem pole, and they're like figures of people. And then from those canyons is where you climb up to Hunts Mesa. Talk about the most fantastic view of anything you would ever see in the world is getting up on the south rim of Monument Valley, up 1,200 feet above those monuments, and looking across to the north. And it's something that no matter when or how many times you do it, brings tears to your eyes. It's very, very fascinating in and out of here. You could spend days and days off in here. There's an awful lot of these Indian dwellings. There's a lot of petroglyphs and pictographs of their paintings and drawings on the wall. You can get really good feelings when you get back into these canyons like this, and it makes you feel good, and you can get out here and you feel that, you know, that what God had really created.
Bill's fascination with natural arches and bridges goes back to when he was a young man.
To me, they're special to me because I like to get out and photograph them, and photograph them in different light, different times of the year. But as far as natural arches and bridges go, there's a lot of them out here, and I know where most of them are, and I enjoy going to them and sharing these with anybody from anywhere in the world. You get back in some of those canyons and you can feel the spirits maybe of some of these old folks sitting up there saying, well, hi, you know, or yacht A, you know, or Jonah, you know, and everything is nice and good. That's what those things mean, you know, that it's a good thing, you know. The Navajo people walk in beauty, and so we all respect it. They do that. Myself living here on the Navajo Indian Reservation, which is a great nation. It takes in over 25,000 square miles. It's about the size of the state of West Virginia. But my family and I have been here a lot of years, and we feel comfortable here. We feel our friends are here. And over the years, I've employed an awful lot of people, and I want to see it continue, and economic development on the Navajo Nation, and people working here. And myself, I would never go and live anywhere else. I would stay here. I have children here who are Navajos. They will be here, and I want them to take over my business as time goes on.
In the spring of 1992, the valley was used as a backdrop to one of Bill Crawley's classic photo shoots.
Well, I'll tell you what, we've got a great day out here in Monument Valley, and we have a group sponsored by Kodalux, who develops Kodak film. What it is, they're the winners of these photography contests that Kodak had sponsored. And these are the winners, so we have them on a tour of the Southwest, and Monument Valley happens to be one of those places where they're doing this, so we've got all this set up with the local Native Americans here, and gives them the chance to take photos here in our great Southwest and the Navajo Nation.
Over the years, Bill has built a special friendship with many of the families that live in the backcountry.
Being around the Navajo Indian people and